Hello, 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 everybody. Thank goodness, Randy, you made it. Hey, Valentine. Hello, everybody, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Sunday. Welcome to another exciting Logic Live. Great to see everybody joining. A bunch of new names. I'd say new faces, but you know, it's at this point, it's just little icons. But we love them all the same. $5 is Andy Nails to Dissolve. Thank you so much, Randy. I appreciate the I appreciate the support. I've been practicing all week, let me tell you. Thiago, how's it going, my friend? At this time, if everybody could make sure you set your chat to all panelists and attendees. Jeff Kyle in the house. Thank you very much. Yeah, there was a software update for Stream Deck, and I was terrified to try it because it would screw up the levels or something. So we'll try it next week. Hello, Gustal. Hello, Hardave. I see Chad, Chris Caston, Johnny Semirot. How you doing, my friend? We have Philippe and Philippe representing. Miriam is here. MB, hello, my friend. Always good to see you. Let's see, who else has joined us today? Josh Lawrence is in the house. I thought it got warmer in here. That's wonderful. Sybil and Simon. Oh, this is great. What a great turnout. Nice to see you all. Wonderful. Todd. Hello, Tom. All right, Randy, we're getting close to the magic moment here. I know I'm excited. Frank is here. Frank, excuse me. For a great Logic Live. Super excited. All right. Hey, everybody. Randy, you owe me $5. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Andy. Welcome to Logic Live. It's so great to see you all here today. We're going to get started right away. We have a full show. And yes, I will invoice you. It's in the mail. Randy, trust me. I have your address. Okay, let me go ahead and start off with Synesys. Synesys.io, solutions development, integration, and support. You know these guys. They've been my reseller for 15 years, and we could not do what we do without them. I want to thank them for always supporting the Flame community, whether it's user groups all around North America or the parties at NAB or events like this here at Logic Live. So thank you very much to our friends at Synesys supporting Flame artists since 1997. I want to thank everybody who supported us on Patreon. It's really meant the world to Randy and I. If you want to support what we're doing here at Logic, go ahead to, we have 3 different tiers of sponsorship with some great extra content and merch. Thank you very much to all of our patrons. The first batch of merch went out. The second is sitting in a box over here next to me. That's going to go out next week, I hope. And if you want to support what we're doing, it's patreon.com/LogicTV. We've been doing patrons-only Q&A sessions with our guests immediately following the show. So we're going to have one with Andriy and Cristobal here. So thank you again to all of our patrons. I want to thank the guys at Gunpowder for a great, great, great show last week about VFX facilities in the cloud. They ran Flame in the cloud, and I spoke to them during the week last week, and they got a lot of great feedback. So I want to thank them very much for that. If you have any questions at all about running any part of your business in the cloud, you can reach out to the guys, to Tom and Tom at info@gunpowder.tech. And Boris Effects. These guys, make the best plugins in the business. If you're in the market for anything that they make, any of their products, please be sure to use the discount code Logic-15 at checkout. Save yourself 15%. You can support what Randy and I are doing. And as I'm sure you all saw, I have a license of Optic to give away at the end of the show today. And super congratulations to our friend Jeff Kyle. You see him there. He's got a green icon. Jeff put together the very first installment of Logic Academy, and we're super excited about it. It's Connected Conform. And what Jeff does that I think is really, really unique is he not only shows the Connected Conflow work for him, but really shows like all the gotchas along the way. It's not just, examples of what the tools do. It's real world examples of things to watch out for, and different things you can do to take advantage of the connected conform workflow. I know everybody in this thread here, or at least it's on the show, has been stuck in the versioning and the online deliverable. I don't want to say hell, but hell. And this is certainly a way to help simplify the ever-changing life that is, conforming spots. So congratulations, Jeff. Thank you very much. And guys, you can head over to logicacademy.com or just go to the YouTube stream and check out Connect to Conform by Jeff Kyle. A little something special from our friends at Autodesk. The 2021 Flame Award nominations are open. If you know a flame artist that you think has wowed everybody, has impressed everybody, head on over to makeanything.autodesk.com/flame award. The deadline for the nominations is March 15th. I believe the winners announced in April. I probably should know the date by now because I'm emceeing the event, but I will reach out and find out. In fact, they may not have announced it yet, but definitely please, please, please nominate somebody over at makeanything.autodesk.com for the Flame Award this year. Thank you very much. And a little update for you on March 28th. RenderDome is back with Sean Cochran and Andy Dill. Andy's going to defend his title from RenderDome 1. So Alan and Jesse had a schedule conflict, and so Sean and Andy Dill have totally stepped up. For those of you who didn't check out RenderDome 1, think of like Iron Chef, but for flame artists. So these two guys meet up, and we assign them some random task that they've never seen before, and they have like 40 minutes to solve not just the main task, but like a million little things, that little gotchas we throw along the way. It's the closest thing to being a flame artist without all the glory. So yes, RenderDome 2, Sunday, March 28th. It's going to be on YouTube. We'll definitely put the link out when it's ready. What is that, Ronaldo? 2 pens go in, only one pen come out. Very true. RenderDome 2. Thank you so much. All right. That's all the announcements and everything I have for you guys. Let me unspotlight myself. If you've spent any time on the forum, then you've seen, I'm sure, the machine learning time warp tool that Andriy Toloshny kind of gifted to the community. And it has been like, it's been like Christmas every day since he released it. We all have, had like our souls sapped away pixel by pixel or frame by frame when we're handed, a time warp shot that is going to be an optical flow nightmare where you're going to be painting all weekend or patching all weekend or patching and painting all weekend. And Andriy came through. And so he's here today to kind of talk a little bit about the time warp tool and show what went into it. So Andriy, would you mind turning on your camera?
Hi guys, hello.
Hey, he's coming to us
Hey.
live from the UK. You look great, you sound great.
Thank you. I'm gonna share my screen and dive straight in.
Yeah, let's see how,
demo.
take us through how it works for anybody who hasn't had an opportunity to check it out yet.
So it's open source, you can get it on GitHub, the releases page, and you can get the release for your operating system. And once it's unpacked, it's gonna be a Flame Python script, which is unusually large. It's 1.5 gig, but it's okay. It's what it should be because it contains all the stuff needed to run. And then you put it into your, say, shared Python folder. And what you need to do is just drop it there and launch Flame. And after that,
while this is launching, I just want to let everybody know, Randy put a link in the chat there for where you can download the latest from the forum also, and it is available for Mac and Linux.
Right, so once it's started, loading workspace. Okay, so you see this dialog that basically allows you to choose the place where you want to place, like when you want to put the thing. And then you click Unpack. And it's going to give you some sort of slightly technical at the moment progress log saying what it's doing. Basically, it's kind of unpacks different components that
It's a lot
it's
of decimal
using.
places there for how much time it took to unpack, I have to say.
It's just
I
the way
love it.
Python does it. Yeah, you can shorten. I can shorten it later. Yeah, but it's very precise. It's very precise. And yeah, it doesn't take too long, so it should take about 30 seconds. And then you can clean. You can press clean, and it's going to clean all the temporary files, and you're good to go. And you should have a TWML menu right here. And we can go straight in, and we'll do at the moment like 25% slowdown, just for the sake of demonstration. You click create. It's going to spin up terminal, and it's going to show you a progress bar with the frames. And as you can see, it's pretty fast. And as well, it runs in the background. So once it's running, we can do a time warp.
Yeah, this clip gives me nightmares just looking at it.
Yeah, so let's try to do the same just to have an idea. So we put it into
Andriy,
like
could you just scrub through it before you render so everybody can see? I mean, anybody who's ever done an optical flow time warp is going to see immediately what. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So that's a source clip, and that's a result you probably expect to get from it. So you've got a lot of different things to work with. Looks like 3 days to me. Had it been
how many people?
Had it been a real task, yeah, at least 3 days
Yep.
or something. Yeah, so we see this result, and we've got our result as well. So that's a time warp from Flame, and then here's our guy from TWML, which is quite a way cleaner.
I'm hearing applause from all over the world right now.
You still see it struggle to deal with these defocused edges, but it's literally like 90% less than you might expect from it.
Oh yeah,
this guy. Yeah, look
it's not 3 days anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's not 3 days anymore, and that's the thing. So that's basically the thing about it. And there are also other tools. And there are fluid morph. There you can do time warps from normal time warps when you have like a vari speed things. And I wanted to quickly show one more thing because people were asking about it. It's frame restoration tool, which basically when you have like a damaged frames and you want to interpolate them, remember in the old days, it's been like a furnace plugin for it to do this stuff.
Those are old days.
So yeah, 12-bit. So what you need to do is you need to basically get the very last good frame before it gets damaged. And you need to stretch it out across the damaged frames. So it kind of covers it with a steel, and then it comes to the next good frame again. And then we have one more frame here like this. So it's 2 frames, and then we can do the same here quickly. So that's a way to tell the tool that you want to interpolate it. So it's gonna get it. And then you just set it to interpolate, and it's gonna process it. This thing is good as well when you have something that's been shot with variable frame rates, like probably during the night on the phone. Sometimes it drops the frame rate, and the frame rates sort of tend to float. And this was developed basically to fix these particular issues or remove the duplicated frames if it happened to be in the footage. But this can be used.
We've been getting, especially since lockdown, we've gotten so many jobs where there's at least one element that was shot on someone's iPhone or iPad or whatever, and it's the only time you'll ever get anything that was shot at 28 frames a second or 31 frames a second. It's beautiful.
Exactly. So it's going to take this, it's going to detect the duplicated frames, and it's going to
it's just crazy.
Interpolate it.
It's absolutely crazy because I
If you
looked at
look,
that with the distortion and was just like, okay, where am I
yeah,
going
if
to
you
have to
look,
track still frames in? And it's great.
if you look precisely, there's still like a couple of things to work on, but on the very edges of the frame in general, it's okay. So it's a useful thing to do. And as well, fluid morph, you can do fluid morph transitions, you can do very speed, and it's all there, like these 4 tools.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oops, I'm gonna get to my reels. The way it works is actually, there is a Python environment, which is quite a recent version of Python, and several libraries that is needed for machine learning to work. And it leaves it its own specified folder, so it doesn't interfere with your main Flame install. You're not breaking anything. It's totally fine. And it acts like a sort of a mini environment, a mini container to run a bunch of time warp tools, and they're command line. So there is an algorithm, and there is like a command line interface to this algorithm. And in fact, this part is not Flame specific at all. So you can run it. We are running it on a baselite systems for baselite. One
And
can
that's
run
running like an
it.
old version of CentOS too, right?
Yeah.
Baselite,
It's
right?
like it's quite ancient, so you need a little bit of kung fu, of a Google kung fu to make this thing running. But it's not dramatically bad. It's like a couple of more things. But most of the time, it just runs out of the box on Windows, on Mac, on Linux. So it's a pretty cool thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a Flame script that runs inside the Flame, and this Flame script has a huge command attached to it, which is just a .tar file. And once it's run at the first time, it just unpacks the tar file, unpacks everything, runs the installation scripts, and then it strips it off from the Python script.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes like 150 kilobytes, like a normal code. So that's the way it works. And this way you can get these tools running in your pipeline if you need to, with Nuke or with anything out there. It's not really Flame specific. The only Flame specific thing is this connection that actually calls the command line tool, exports the media, calls the command line tool, and gets media back.
And then gets the media back. Yeah, which is great. Real quick,
Um,
there's a couple questions for you real quick before you move on.
yeah.
One is from Sinan. He was saying he didn't have a chance to try it out yet, but he was wondering if it'll work on the Ampere architecture, like the A6000 card.
Yes, it should. You need to install a slightly different version of the PyTorch library. So you need to specify. There is an issue on the GitHub from the guy who was running it on Ampere, and it's been solved. So it's just specifying that you need CUDA 11.5, I think, and this is it. Basically, you just need the PyTorch build for the very recent version of CUDA, and then it's going to work.
Cool.
So it is just with its very slight sort of amend that you need to do, and you'll have to do it manually.
Real quick, Andriy, before you dive into the kind of the how it works, would you mind showing off the fluid morph example that you had?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So
I've had many a weekend ruined with fluid morphs. So
yeah, this is something that usually comes from Avid, and it normally
oh, it
looks
doesn't
like this.
discriminate. The Premiere editors will.
Okay, yeah,
We'll,
okay.
we'll do it
See.
as well.
So it's something that looks normally like this. So you've got the same person in different positions with the interview. And here what you need to do, you just need to extract the incoming and outgoing plates. So you have these two things. You can name it as you like. You can select it first and then second, but if you messed it up, there is a tool, there is a button to change the order. And then you click create, and it's gonna run the thing through. And unfortunately, on Flame 2020.2, you cannot really get the color space, so you need to tag it manually back. And then you have your transition like this.
It's just like it's mind blowing.
So from here
I can't tell you how much money
to
I've
here.
lost in agreeing to do a fluid morph, over the years. And
And if you look at it, it's pretty good. I mean, if you look really precisely, you would still probably have a little bit issue with the ear that disappears and appears again.
mhm.
You'll need to work on the top and the bottom of the frame as usual because it lacks the information. But in general, you're pretty much there. It's super helpful, and I've been using it quite a lot of times. And one particular use was making it two still frames when I had to make a dead guy lying, like a dead body lying on the floor, and actor was obviously breathing, and it was in between
Mhm.
an action and action. So someone was touching the guy, then running around, and then touching the guy again. And I had to basically transform the guy so it looks still, and it was one of the examples you can use it aside from fluid morph. You just make two stills of a given their duration, and you throw it there, and it's perfectly morphs
That's
one
great.
plate into another. Right, and quickly, the magic behind it. So how it works is there are a bunch of Chinese guys who actually developed this algorithm, and they have a paper on it, so you can read it. It's a bit scientific, but still sort of readable. And they are doing basically one network that does an optical flow first. So it's more or less same as everyone is doing. And then they use another neural network to specifically works on the edges and mix those two warped frames in the way that the edges are clean. And the way they achieve it is they feeding it with so-called YML 90K dataset. It's something that's been put together in open source as well. So you've got a lot of scenes ripped from Vimeo, and it's like 3 of 6 frame sequences like this. And there are a lot of different types of footage, 90,000 clips literally.
Mhm.
And then you've got like the first frame, and then you got the third frame, and you have a frame in between. And then you warp it, it warps it, and then it compares it to the frame in between and tries to nudge itself and tries to learn how to get it as close as possible to the real actual frame in between. And you run it for 2,000-3,000 times, and this way you teach the model how to deal with different types of footage, and this is it basically.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's the way it works.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I wondered how you train something for this kind of for like optical flow, and how it would infer uh, the new frame. But that makes perfect sense. You have frame one and frame three. You tell it to make frame two, and you have a reference. You have frame two as a base that it can compare against and test the results. So that's great.
Yeah, and they all measure it with some sort of numbers. So the good number is around 32, 34. It makes that it's good enough to go. Yeah, that you're close enough to the original frames. Something over
Mm-hmm.
under 30 is already not that good. But this technical number is not always visually pleasant. So the guys are actually running two models. One is for scientific measurement, and another one is slightly modified, so it kind of understands a little bit about our perception. And there is another third network that kind of adjusted a little bit, so we didn't notice that much of the errors there. Let's see.
Mm-hmm. I know I had asked people on the forum and on the Facebook group if they had any questions specifically for the team that developed this open source model. I would pass them along, and I did. The first question was, or actually, there were a few questions about training. Like, do they think it would be possible in the future for users to submit their own material for training purposes? And the developer wrote back that some of his experiments show that the current bottleneck of the model is not training data. Um, that the training data is actually quite, or the current training is actually quite complicated. But he's certainly going to. He says in the future, he's going to be looking for like really bad examples. So if you have something that's really bad that you've solved, those kinds of things could be could be added to the model from a training point of view.
One of the
But
examples, one of the examples mentioned recently on the forum was the flame face detection tool that doesn't work when someone is lying horizontally, so it works only with the vertical face.
mm-hmm.
And you just have to flip your footage, and then it works, and you have to flip it back. And we had exactly the same issue with an early model that
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that really good with horizontal pans, but if camera moves vertically, it kind of doesn't handle it that well. And I write it to the guys on the GitHub, made an issue, and they actually fixed it in the next model by adding a rotation. So they randomly rotate the images, and then it sort of compensates it in the actual model.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that, oh, it's funny. Todd in the chat here says he just scrolled through the dataset link. I posted your links, and he saw a Honda commercial that he worked on in one of the 90,000 clips. That's great. I also, one of the other question I got, I think it was Sinan who asked the question. He had asked about possibly using this model for like traditional warping and morphing. He mentioned specifically if you had motion control passes and they were not lining up, could you use this to kind of to warp the passes 2, 3, 4, whatever, to match your base pass? And Shui, the developer who wrote me back, said that yes, that is certainly like reasonable, and they're developing some related applications for it. So
yeah, they will. Yeah,
fingers
so
crossed.
Great. If you're running out of time, I think we need to move to the second.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions for Andriy? I have to tell you also, Andriy, I don't know if you saw it in the chat, but Todd also said that that this was God's gift to Flame. This tool. He used it last week on a Mazda spot with the car going over a bridge, and it was an optical flow nightmare, and it just worked perfectly. So hashtag mind blown, and thank you, Andriy. I can't thank you enough for on behalf of everybody. I've used it too.
I'd like to share
wonderful.
it with two fellow colleagues. It's Mark Epstein and Tom Bolkwill from Lux from London, because Mark Epstein kind of introduced me to Tom, and we were working on the subject before a little bit with Daynap. And then Tom, he's got like he's been finishing Life in a Day. It's a documentary from YouTube Originals, and it's made of a lot of footage has been shot during the same day in the different locations on the planet Earth. And then it's like a documentary, and he had to conform everything to 24 FPS for the theatrical screening. So he had some really difficult shots to deal with, and some fluid morphs on top of it, of course. And we were playing with this Daynap. It didn't give us like a super good results. And we found out actually exactly the same as Ray, saying that the data you train it with kind of affects it slightly, but not that much. It's more like different things that you need to play with. And then I found that there are basically around 8 open source algorithms at the moment that are doing the same thing. And because we already had this sort of mini container to play with, then we were able to check them all. And this RIFE went pretty well. It was already a little bit too late for the show, but still it was like several shots has been done with this algorithm, and it worked pretty well. And there are some more things like super res or content field that one may play in the future on the same sort of base. So its base is pretty good for playing with this open source machine learning stuff.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much. And anybody, if you do have questions, you can always reach Andriy on the forum at forum.logik.tv. If you do a search for the biggest thread of comments, it's definitely this one, the ML Time Warp tool. So thank you again, man, very much for sharing this with us, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Cristobal Valenzuela from RunwayML. I first found Runway last year when I started looking into, trying to educate myself on different types of machine learning tools that were out there. And a couple of weeks ago, these guys released Green Screen, which is their ML-based roto tool, and it's just like mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And so I want to thank Cristobal for coming on today. How you doing, man?
Hey, Andy. Thanks for the invitation.
Of course. So tell us about Runway.
Yeah, definitely. Let me share my screen and we'll start. Cool. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, Runway is a company and a product that I've been building for the last 2.5 years. Originally, we started as a research project inside NYU, and now it has more of a company. And we're basically as probably you guys have seen, we're basically taking existing kind of like paradigms or technologies inside the ML space and kind of like bridging those with what's possible in the video domain. And we're building basically interfaces and services and products that allows video people, creators, VFX, editors, filmmakers to use very powerful and very kind of like useful ML models. So I was thinking today maybe I can just show you some of the things we have on the product, specifically green screen, and a few other things that I think will be very helpful for you all.
Sure.
If that's a good plan. So the first thing I guess is Runway itself is it's a web app. You can download, you can install it, so you can access it directly from the web. There's a desktop version that you can also install and run locally. So if you want to run on not on the web but locally, you can install that. And Runway has kind of like two main parts at the moment. It has an ML side, like an open source ML component, and a more professional video set of tools that I'm gonna kind of like demo quickly here. On the open source side, the idea of Runway was like there's so many things happening in computer vision, in deep learning that are so transformative to video that we want to have a kind of like a workspace or a playground or a sandbox for anyone who's interested in like learning how to use those and playing with those and incorporating those into their workflows to be able to do that. And so the model side, the machine learning side of Runway here we have around 400 different models to be used right out of the box. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to like run anything. And so you can browse for some of the things that people have been adding, people having kind of like porting to the website here. And so let's say you want to run like a depth map model. This is Mida, one of the best models in depth estimation at the moment. I can add this to a workspace, and a workspace is basically like your real-time working interface to use these models with any data that you have. And so the first thing that you can do is just run the model. You can run it remotely. In this case, you're running it in our GPU cluster. There are some models that if you have the GPU capabilities and Docker install, then you can run them locally in your computer. For these purposes of these demos, I'm just going to show you how to run it remotely. And so what I can do here is I can use this with different inputs. I can use this with other models I have running. I can like pipe the models together. I can use it with my webcam stream if I want to do real-time stuff, or I can use a file. I can upload a file or something that I already have here, and just use this video file to preview this in real time. Once the model starts, it might take like 10, 20 seconds to start, depending on the weights, the initialization, and how fast the model is at booting up. Once it's ready, you can basically start streaming and using it in real time. And besides that, what you can also do is just like, instead of like running in real time, you can export content. So let's say you have a shot that's like 20 seconds or 10 minutes, and you want to get a depth map of all that shot. Just basically export the video, select the codec, the format that you want, input the video, and just click export, and you'll get kind of like the task of depth map basically running for you. And that's kind of the idea of the model directory. It's a space it's a kind of like a environment for anyone to jump, use those models in any capacity that you want, and then kind of like start playing with those. And so there's model for super resolution, so you can upscale your videos and images. There's an in-painting model, there's colorization, there's a background matting model, there's a U2Net model for background removal. This one is very interesting. I've been playing with it recently for image relining. And these are all kind of like very state-of-the-art or like very new computer vision models that are available for you if you want to like play with them without having to necessarily like install anything locally in your computer before running stuff. So yeah, so you can see here that's running in real time. And so this is extremely useful, I think, for a lot of the people who are interested in like using this inside their workflows. I guess specifically for some of the people here in the audience, the depth map tool will be extremely useful. By the way, I was checking, and I think someone also ported like a version of what we just saw. I don't think it works that well, and it's not integrated into Flame yet. But you can see it's very open, and people can add their models directly through like a Python SDK. So we have an SDK. You take any existing GitHub model, and you add that model directly into the platform. And one thing that kind of like we've been kind of like doing recently with our research team is that we've taken kind of like some of the principles inside here, and there's things for guns, there's things for animation, there are things for stylization. There's like, I would just like invite you guys to see all of the things that we have here. But one of the key insights is a lot of these models are really good, but they're not like really yet like there yet in terms of like the quality that you need when you're working with very professional workflows. And so what we're building kind of like now is we're kind of like pushing all these models to the last mile. We're retraining them, we're improving quality, and we're building custom research to basically take, for instance, let me clear this. Take, for instance, the idea of rotoscoping or background removal or image segmentation to the next level, so you can work on 8K video, 4K video, and with like any frames per second that you want, and with the quality and the details that most professional video people really required. And so we work on, recently as Andy was saying, we released this tool called green screen. And this green screen is kind of like we push background matting to like the next level. And the way this works is that the first thing you do is just to upload any video that you have. So I was playing with this one just before. And you see here the video loads on the web on real time. You can like, of course, browse and skim through it. And then we've built an interface that kind of like allows you to include regions of objects that you want to rotoscope or segment, or exclude, which means like clean the mask if there's anything in that selection that you don't want to include. And so instead of like going on the frames of the video one by one, I can just tell the ML model to like focus on this specific subject, right? And so what you'll see here is we have a network that basically does a pass, understands the subject, refines the subject, and then supplies and tracks the object consistently over time. And so just by putting those first two clicks, you have temporary consistent video segmentation for all the frames. And what you can do from there is kind of like, first of all, visualize that. You can export, you can visualize the mat. And so if you see like any details that you want to get more qualities on, you can kind of like keep kind of like segmenting or redefining the mask as much as you want to improve those results, right? And kind of like that's the idea behind the tool, kind of like taking existing models, taking existing capacities in the computer vision space, and making them extremely accessible to video editors, right? This is a tool that again runs entirely on the web, so you can use it on the web or run it entirely on your computer with the desktop version. I can share a bit more how we build this if that's interesting for you all. We wrote this blog post that goes over the technical kind of like definitions of the two networks that we've built for this. We're using a U2Net based architecture for this. And we have a system also we created a synthetic data set to basically kind of like train the model on specific data points that we predicted were going to be using when selecting the subject. I'm happy to take, Andy, do we have any questions or?
Yeah. There are a couple of questions. I think you might have just answered one. There's a question from Ronaldo about, he was curious if this is something, if something that he's uploaded is only showing to him or is it public? And he's asking for NDA reasons.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. We have that question asked a lot. We're working on an MPAA certification, and we have some explorations around local processing for folks that have like strict protocols and security things in place. By default, Runway is entirely private. Like all of the content that you upload, everything remains private on your account, and it's tied to your username. And so we have VFX studios and we have companies and we have like film studios that are already using it, and everything is tied to their account. Nothing is public. You can make things public if you want, but by default, everything's private. And then we're working on that extra layer of like certification just to make sure like folks that do have more strict protocols can work more kind of like free on those.
And is would using the desktop version of the app be more secure, or is it still sending images back to the server for analysis?
Yeah, it's some of the processing is done in the server. I guess I want to emphasize that it's extremely secure. Like we have thousands of users using it at the moment, and like all of that kind of like solidifies the platform. That's security for us has been like top priority from day one. We understand how sensible the material that we all are working with is, and so we want to make that kind of like a priority. But as I was telling you, we have that MPA certification coming up to give like that extra layer of quality.
That's great. Question for two more here for you. One from Hardave. Is the export only MP4 at the moment? He says he tried and he found the edges to be a little jaggy. Wondering if in the future there'll be an option for higher res outputs, different colors.
Yes, great question. We haven't announced this yet. We're going to announce it like Monday morning, but we just released a model. This what you're seeing here is a model that has better support for edges and mattes, so you see them like much better defined, right? And so that's kind of like very interesting to mention is that we're constantly adding more data points and improving the data set and improving the training, and just like the bottlenecks that we have so now are getting kind of like removed. And so one of the things that if you want to try it, and perhaps some of you tried already, and like some of those rough edges, that model has now been improved, and you'll see much more smoother edges. And we're also adding support for more export types. So we have PNGs, sequences coming up, and a few other video codecs. But if there's any video format that you're like interested in, just let me know. We can start working on supporting those as well.
Excellent. What about motion blur? How does this handle motion blur?
So the model that we just introduced handles motion blur much better than the model that was like there a week ago, and that was released on Friday afternoon. So give it a try.
Logic Live exclusive, everybody.
Yes, exactly. And the point is like it's only going to get better over time, right? And so this is beta. It's still in beta, and version number 1 was released like 2 months ago. And now we're improving and working on a better data set for motion blur, a better data set for like hair segmentation, which has been a highly requested feature. So like really small details. And it's just a matter of time until those are released.
I got a question here for you from Sinan. He asks, is it possible to use the platform for 3D model generation? Real life example, he has a data set of DICOM images that are 3D volumetric scans, and he wants to extract a 3D polygon model of the spline. Would this be possible?
Right.
Now or in the future?
Yeah, totally possible. So the ML Spice site here, we have like a playground that allows you to work with right now with images, videos, and text-based models, and we're eventually going to have support for 3D models, and so you can do 2D to 3D reconstructions. And this is for us like a very experimental space, so people can work, add new models, play with those, and then what we do is we take some of this and like pour them and like add them here. So we have one of the things that we have in our roadmap is like working with 3D inside the video space, inside the video tools here. And so if there's anything specifically that you find interesting that could be added to the workflow here, I would love to also hear that and see if that's something we can do.
Great. Another question is, in the future, do you think you'll be able to convert the mats you're generating into rotosplines? Into mats that could be re-imported back into some app?
Right, that's also been a highly requested feature. We're exploring that, and I think it could be possible. It does require a bit more work on our backend to make sure like we estimate the splines correctly. But it's something we're actually looking at and see if that we can introduce that.
I do have a question for you about this, but I want to make sure we don't. I just like in terms of how it works, but I want to just there are a couple more questions here that I just want to run by you.
Mm-hmm.
One is cost. What is the cost for this? Is there a cost for this, or will you said it was in beta, or you mentioned it was in beta? What is the cost structure for using Runway?
So right now, the video tools is free if you want to use it on SD videos. And so if you just want to test things out, it's completely free. And then exporting requires, in HD, requires a subscription. And that subscription is $28 per month. So pretty affordable. And you get access to unlimited amounts of exports, unlimited amount of like 4K exports, 8K exports. And you also get access to, there's a big part of the platform that I haven't shown yet, which is like you can train also models in the platform. So you can train GANs, you can train text-based models and object detection-based models. And so you also get access to those for free with the subscription as well, besides just access to the 4K and 8K exports in video tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done some 4K shots with it, and it was last week, so I can't wait to try them again this week.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of what's really exciting about this is that it is constantly evolving. And I guess the question I had for you was about, it seems to me that one of the most difficult challenges with any of these ML image segmentation tools is temporal artifacts. You know, just the how the edges wobble and move
Yep.
on every frame. To put it in English, I found the results in green screen to be remarkably free of
Great.
that. You know, by and large, without giving away your recipe. How is that possible?
Great. Yeah, that's a great point. So most of the segmentation models that you've seen or probably have heard about are image-based segmentation models, and the way they work is they work really well with like defined classes. So there's like the class dog, and just like identify the dog in an image, and you segment that, right? But there's no knowledge of that object moving across the video or like different frames, right? And so just taking a straight up open source model and like running it in video, you'll get that artifacts, basically because the model only knows about images individually and not like the tracking of the subject, right? And so what we did was kind of like different. We understood like that video artifacts and having temporal video consistency was a key to getting really good results. And we built it and we separated it into two different models. We have a refinement network and a propagation network. And so the refinement network does the first job of just like identifying the subject. And what we find interesting when building this was that the human loop and the human input was critical to getting like the results that you might expect and the results that you really want. Like just having a fully automated system is not going to be enough, because a shot like this shot, as I was like this one in particular, is extremely hard for algorithm just to identify which part you want to roto. It could be like you want to roto like the wood here, you want to roto the subject, right? And so having some sort of like human in the loop where you click over the subject was critical. And so the refinement network is based on that. And like the magic goes here, right? The magic is the propagation network that does basically propagates the single frame that you identify at the beginning or any part in the video, and that propagates that and tracks that with some circuit sauce behind the scenes over all the frames of the video in a temporally consistent manner. And so you get really good smooth edges, you get really good consistent results over the objects moving. And the object could be moving in all sorts of different ways. If you add more keyframes, you just will improve the results. So that's kind of like how it works at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. A couple more questions. They're rolling in. Let's see. Maybe we can talk SDK for a second, or integration. You know, we had Thiago Porto on back in January, and he was showing how he had found a way to hook into to Flame, basically, so that the model that he had built and trained was running in the background. Do you guys have an SDK so that maybe the tools here could be incorporated into a VFX app?
Yeah, for sure. So right now we have two SDKs. We have one at like an entry level. So the SDK at the entry level allows you to take existing models, put them into a platform so you can run them inside the model playground that I just showed before. And then what you can do is you can use, we have like a hosted, like an SDK in the desktop app. So let me open this. That allows you to use that in real-time manner so you can connect it. For instance, there's like a Runway for Unity. So if I go,
oh wow,
if I go here, let's say I have my depth mask model, right? The one I was showing you before. Mm-hmm. If I click on the desktop app, if I click network, I'll have this now. So I can use OSC, I can use HTTP, or I can use just like plain JavaScript to stream data back and forth between Runway and different applications. And so someone built like a Runway for Unity, there's like a Runway for Photoshop, right? Maybe this is the time for a Runway for Flame, right? But yeah, it's that part is already available. There's also like a fully remoted SDK. So if there's any flavor of JavaScript or Python or web-based scripting that you guys are using, you can also just use this, which is kind of like a simpler layer for integrations for building like kind of like SDKs or anything inside any other software. And then for green screen in particular, we're not yet planning on adding an SDK to make this kind of like open. The reason is that we're actually working on, and this is also something that we haven't announced yet, so exclusive for now. We're working on a few new models for you to work after you get a mask. And so one of the things you're probably able to do is like in-painting or removing a subject or allowing getting more frames, or just all the transformations that are now possible in the video space, in the video directory, in the model directory. would eventually be part of like this UI, right? And so kind of like the idea behind Runway is kind of like not just make the models and like make this type of like interfaces that are more accessible, more useful, and hopefully to speed up your work and make your life easier, but also to incorporate it with new kind of like ways of editing content, right? And so perhaps adding like a video, a text to video generation model, those things like that. And that's kind of like how we're growing the platform right now.
Cool. Yeah, Jeff, I don't know. I know there's if there's somebody from the Autodesk team on that could speak as to how this might work in terms of the Python API, please feel free to put it in the chat. But I think that we'd have to dive deeper on the Flame end to see what might be possible. Josh, one more question for you, I think. Josh had a question about, is it possible to define areas by color? Like if you just wanted to make a mat for the skin on the face, but not the neck or not the shirt, or is this model really more like at its core, like defining an object, like the person as opposed to the background, things like that?
So it's whatever you wanted to define. Like in this case, let's say I have this shot. I can be the subject. I can just be this like the skate here, and I will guess it will just get the skate, right? That's we use a very kind of like broad data set, and so yeah, you see, I got that skate. So whatever.
That's crazy.
Whatever it's not per pixel. It's not understanding the pixel level. So it's not just like combining the pixels and just following the pixels, understanding the object itself. And so you can play with whatever you want. If you just want like the pants instead of the skate, let's see, I haven't tried this, but let's see, I don't want that. I just want the like this part, right? And it can just be like super specific with like the regions that I want us to roto, right? And be like, let's not focus on that. Let's not focus on that. Just focus on the pants. And then eventually, if I keep doing this, I'll just get the subject that I want, right? The object that I need. And then we're adding more data sets and improving the models we were saying before. And so you can only expect this to get overall better over time. So hopefully you'll never have to do roto again. Right, you see here, right?
Yeah. That would definitely, that would be a life goal, is to never have to fix optical flow artifacts and never have to do roto again. It'd be wonderful. It'd be back to like when I was in film school dreaming of doing visual effects and not knowing about things like painting out artifacts.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, if anyone wants to try it, it's open. I will invite you all to like log in and use the app. We've created a unique coupon code if you all want to get some extra credits for running some of the training stuff. If you want to train models, so the code is Logik TV. If you want to use that code to have more GPU credits to train stuff on the web. Everything else, as I was saying before, it's free if you want to use it for SD, or the paid version has HD experts.
That's great. So yeah, so just to recap for everybody, that if you want to use the video tools, like in green screen, for example, using it in SD and trying it out is free. But if you want the higher res HD 4K and you want to be able to export an alpha, then it's $20 a month, and that's kind of unlimited. But if you use the code Logik TV, and I'll just put that in the chat here, you can use that for credits towards the training, like model training things. That, if you're going to train your own model, that's using GPU resources in your cluster. And so what you're doing, that's a separate cost structure. And so this discount code here is for that kind of stuff, correct?
Yep, exactly. So you can do all of this kind of like crazy latent GAN stuff.
Oh, it's insane. I remember. Again, like Thiago showed some GAN stuff back in New York last January. And, we were all sitting there initially going like this, it was creating faces of people that never existed. And, I remember my first reaction was like, this is evil. And then my next reaction was, well, that's the end of stock footage houses, like you can just dial in what you need in terms of a stock photograph. Like if you're looking for like that perfect realtor or something like that, or a perfect office mate who's walking in with an iPad.
Yeah. Well, in Runway, you can train that to be whatever you want. So you have a data set of like shoes, faces, cars, whatever you want. Like you can actually generate those same images here. So generate faces, definitely try that out as well.
It's wild. It's really, really wild. Cool.
Awesome.
Does anybody have any other questions for Cristobal? We got a holy moly from Josh Lawrence. And I know him well enough to know that that's serious. Man, the man has been impressed. Definitely, guys, head on over to runwayml.com. Check out Green Screen. Again, I've used it. I used it on a job. I've used it on some side projects. Fun fact: my son is in college, and he and his friends wrote he's in the theater program. He wrote a show, and I told him he's also taking computer science. So he was telling me about his JavaScript class, and I told him that Cristobal, you were coming on the show and you were showing off green screen, and he was like, "Oh my God, really? I'm in Final Cut Pro and I'm using rotosplines to try to cut somebody out, and it's a nightmare." And so I sent him on over, and I mean, I get my email addresses on the notifications, and so up until like 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting notifications from Runway that your download is ready. You know? So it's a really amazing tool. I highly recommend you guys give it a try.
Yeah, and the one thing I would also love to mention is that we're working on this and improving like constantly. So if anyone has any feedback, suggestion, things that you would love to see, like we're fully open to listen to those and hopefully incorporate those. So please feel free to message me, either email me, whatever, to get that feedback. I would love to hear from you all.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. Cool. All right. Well, we've come to everyone's favorite portion of the show, and that is when we give stuff away. So, without further ado, it's prize time here at Logic Live. Randy, I changed the logo. I just wanted to let you know that I was shamed last week for having the old Logic Live logo underneath this graphic, so now there's a new Logic Live logo. So I feel like I have been redeemed. Okay, let's go over here to our handy dandy random name generator, and today it's brought to you by Stamford Health. If you have a little kid who likes to run around the house and a dad who wears a red shirt, then I guess Stamford Health should be your healthcare provider of choice. Okay, so let's take a look here. Look at this animation. This is something my son's going to do as his final project in JavaScript, I bet you. Frank, are you still here? Let me scroll. Yes! Oh my gosh, congratulations, man. That's wonderful. You, my friend, Frank, have won. Hold on, let me switch back here. You have won yourself a 12-month subscription to Optics from Boris FX. I don't know if you guys have seen Optics yet. It's amazing. Think of having Sapphire and all those amazing plugins in Photoshop to use on your photos. So congratulations, Frank, and thank you very much to our friends from Boris FX. We love them and they love us. So congratulations, man. I'll email you after and get you your license. Before we go to what's coming up next on Logic Live, I just wanted to acknowledge that we are coming up on a year of Logic Live. It was March 22nd of 2020 that we started this crazy thing, and I was going through and looking back at some of the sessions that we had, and it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. This is the 45th episode. Just hours and hours of content, and like none of it would have been possible without all of you and your enthusiasm and everything. So I can't thank you all enough. I'm going to try to do, maybe some kind of recap, or I'll put up a poll for people to vote on their favorite episodes. But just again, looking back at the year of doing this really was a beautiful thing. We've had a lot of fun and learned a lot and shared a lot. And so I just wanted to thank everybody for making this possible. So coming up next week on the show is ACES workflow and subtractive CG comping with Finn Yager. And I can't wait to actually meet Finn and talk with him. I've only ever communicated with him online. So he's super enthusiastic, and I can't wait to have him on next week. Everybody always has questions about color workflow, and subtractive CG comping is one of those things where I go I got to try this out. It looks awesome. So I can't wait. March 21st, our friend Jeff Kyle is going to come on and talk connected conform. Again, if you haven't had a chance, please check out his Logik Academy series on Connected Conform. March 28th, we're going back into the Render Dome with Sean Cochran and Andy Dill. Andy will be defending his title from Render Dome 1 on April 11th, comping VFX stock with actionvfx.com. And on April 18th, Andy Brown, who I believe is with us. He is not with us. Andy Brown is going to be doing some shop breakdowns and showing us his stuff. The forum, my friends. Randy and I were talking the other day about the forum, and it's like we're up to 4,000 page views a day. It's really, really taken off, and I just want to thank absolutely everybody for contributing to the forum, and to Randy for setting it up. And he's also an enormous fan of the exclamation point, which I'm noticing in the chat here. So absolutely, thank you. There we go. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the forum. This episode of Logik Live will be available at logiktv.com, where you can find all kinds of great content. I released last week's interview with Tom and Tom as a podcast episode. I have another one in the works for next week, so I should be releasing it a week after that. But if you haven't subscribed to the Logik podcast, you can get it on your podcatching app of choice. And please, hey, there you go, huh? Randy, did you like that little animation there? That's keyframes, baby. If you haven't already, please go over to Logik Live's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/LogikLive, and subscribe. We're only 90 subscribers away from 1,000, which we've been trying to hit. So please, please, please call your mom, call your friends, and make that happen. Let's get to 1,000. That would be great. Actually, 1,024 is what Randy wants to get at for some reason. And thank you to everybody who sponsored us on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute to what Randy and I are doing here, patreon.com/LogikTV. Don't forget about the Flame Award. We've got another week left to make nominees or to make nominations for this year's Flame Award at makeanything.autodesk.com/Flame Award. And thanks to everybody at Boris FX. Thank you for contributing the prize for today. And if you're in the market for Boris FX plugins, save 15% on everything they make, standalone or subscription, when you use Logik 15 at checkout. And finally, a shout out again to our friends from Gunpowder, to Tom and Tom. Thanks so much for coming on last week. And if you guys have any questions for them about the cloud stuff that they're doing, please reach out to them at info@gunpowder.tech. And of course, a thank you, as always, to our dear friends at Synesys.io. Solutions, development, integration, and support. We could not do what we do without them, both here and at work. So thank you very much to the whole Synesys team supporting flame artists since 1997. I can't believe we're ending on time. Thank you very much to Andriy and to Cristobal. To our Patreon patrons, we're going to hop over into the patrons Q&A meeting with these guys right after this. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you next week.